Network diagramming. Essentially, what I want you to do this week is to take your work breakdown structure and take a look at that activity list that you put together. And as you recall, when you think about the graphical form of a work breakdown structure, as you did, and most of you did this, is that you created your work breakdown structure in a way where you had listed up high your summary tasks. Then below those summary tasks, we put together work packages, which of course were made of a number of activities below that support those work packages. So what we're going to be talking about today is translating, if you will, this work breakdown structure into a network. A network that over the course of the next couple of days, I want you just to focus on the logic, on the sequence, if you will, of the activities in your project as reflected in your work breakdown structure. So the first thing that we want to do is we want to take our activity list and have some fun with this. So in a couple of ways, what you can do, you can kind of see this behind me, is to take the list that you generated of the activities and write them on a post-it and lay those post-its out in front of you and just don't worry about networking other than just translate and take the activities and put those activities on post-its. But it's entirely up to you. The idea being is that we want to take those activities and we want to put them in front of us and we want to start to mix and match and see what goes before what, and basically to see what can be run in parallel, or in other words, what can be run concurrently at the same time. So the activities don't necessarily precede or succeed each other, but they're activities that can happen at the same time. So that's kind of the second part, is we generate the activity list and translate them onto post-its. Then once we've done that, we have it laid out in front of us, all these activities. Now let's sequence them. Let's put some logic to it, some thought to it, and let's sequence these activities against each other. And essentially from left to right, we're going to see our project begin to unfold before us. So when we do sequence, we have some real simple choices. One activity can precede the other, i.e., or one activity can be a successor to the other, right? What we call a finish to start, which is the most commonly used logic in performing network diagrams. The other is just simply projects that are running in parallel. That is, projects are concurrent. And so as you reflect that, when you start to stake out your logic, you can see behind me with the example that going from left to right, you can see how I've translated and am sharing with you those activities which would be running in parallel. And obviously those activities that precede another activity are shown, as you can see, along in a straight line. So that's what you want to do with the sequencing. That simple. 1, generate activities. 2, sequence the activities. Now, mind you, I've said nothing about the durations that you put together here recently in our exercise from last week. And I've said nothing about resources and availability and the expertise of those resources and how fast or how slow or how challenged people might be in doing and performing certain tasks. Said nothing about that, and I don't want us to think about that right now. All I want you to think about is the simple logic of the activities that you generated and how those activities relate to each other in terms of logic and in terms of sequence through the course of moving your project to completion. That's it. That's all I want you to do. So now part 3 is, once you've spent some time, and this may take you a couple hours, once you have all those activities in front of you, and some of you may have 20 to 30 to 40 activities, quite a few activities. Nonetheless, when you look at those activities, see how they all interrelate and begin to put together that network that is your project. Once you're able to do that, read the logic, go from left to right, and read the logic and see that it works for you. If it does work for you, then that is going to be your network diagram.